Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Every now and then I get to come up from air from doing all of my customer projects and just satisfy my curiosity. So this one is a curiosity reel. I'm going to date it to the late 60s, early 70s. It's a reel called the SpinMaster Pro. It's a ball bearing reel and it's stuck. I mean, it is just, that's about the length of the movement you get. So most of the time I see something like that, I attribute that to just caked grease, but one never knows. So I have no idea what this reel is other than in need of repair. So follow along with me. It may just become a tuition reel. We may open this up and find out that there's no saving graces to it, or we may open it up and find out that with a little TLC we can make it go again. I did test earlier the bail, and it's kind of sticky, but the spring itself is firing. The trip pin seems to be stuck, so that's another indication that this just may have been uncared for. So maybe with a little TLC we'll get this one back together. So let's start by how I always start, which is taking off the external pieces. And while I'm doing that, I've been trying to thank our first responders, essential personnel, law enforcement, healthcare workers, and the like that are keeping us safe during this pandemic. Thank you for all you do. Your services and your dedication truly are appreciated. Okay, we have a spool here that I gotta believe, just looking at this, was originally painted yellow. There's yellow back here, and there's yellow under the cap. The rest of it seems to have been worn away. So this is typical of the 60s. You had this little friction kind of pipe cleaner almost in there. So maybe we'll revise it back to the 60s as opposed to the early 70s. And we're certainly going to take the line off at some point in time, because right now that line is certainly aged and of no value here. All right, so a couple of things in addition to the thank yous. I do wear a protective glove on my hand to keep greases and the like off. And I do use a parts tray, simply the bottom of a milk jug, for all the parts that I take off. There's no button on this side, so the handle should come off by reverse turning. That was a pretty tight snap there. And I'm looking inside and seeing evidence of rust, so maybe we've got a rusted reel. I'm not quite sure. Interestingly enough, this reel has side plate screws in both sides to take it out. So let's get started. Let's take it out and see what we can find. This will kind of answer our questions in about 3 screws. And I am hopeful because the paint on this reel is nice on the lower body. If that was a yellowed spool on the top, then it would make it interesting. But I can't ever recall working on one of these. That probably doesn't mean I haven't worked on one, but I just can't recall it. And with a name like SpinMaster, it sounds like it was probably sold through retail chains and department stores and the like. It was probably manufactured by somebody else. It's been a long time since I've worked on one of these. This little loop here kind of is indicative of the Shakespeare line, so I don't know. All right, so what's gone wrong here? This looks like it should work. Here we go. We've got a piece that's fallen out here. Looks like we're missing the screw. There would be a screw that belongs in there that would transfer to the catch arm here and would drive the reel up and down. So if I take the arm out, I should be able to spin this relatively easy. I think I have the anti-reverse. Oh, there we go. Yeah, we have the so the only thing that's missing right now is a little screw. And let's just take this apart, clean it up, and I'm going to go hunt for a screw in the near term. But short term, I'm going to just put this one back together again, and then leave the video with that screw missing, and we'll find out which way is which here. I think this is going to go that way. There's only so many orientations that you can have on this thing. So we'll figure that one out in a moment. So the gear for the time is a pretty impressive gear. It's nice, solid construction. It's a heavy gear. And if anybody knows the history of this reel, let me know, because I'm kind of impressed by it. I'm just going to have to find that little screw that goes in there. I have Mitchell screws and the like that sort of have that collar to it. But somehow this one looks like it may have gotten sheared off. Just trying to see if I can find threads in there. Alright, well, at the time I can't. So, simple enough. We have an anti-reverse dog that just needs a little bit of oil. And I always like it set down or in the off position so that it's easy to reinstall. That lever is going to come behind here. This is your anti-reverse function. Quite straightforward. Pull that shaft up and out. Well, I imagine that's why we have the other side of the case here, so that there's probably a screw that's holding that cross line onto the shaft. So let's go do that. I'll put these on the side to make sure that they're all the same size screw. I believe they are. I'll lay them down here. So the reason I use that parts tray is just to make sure I know where all of the pieces and parts are when I go to reinstall. I know folks have other systems for it, but in this case I'm going to take the 3 screws I just took out of the side plate and I'm going to put that into my parts tray. And there you go. So my suspicions are confirmed. There's 2 screws that are holding that crosswind block on there, so I'm going to take those out. That's all that this side plate does. You get a solid side plate. Other than that, these are metallic. They're reacting to my metal tip screwdriver here, so they won't be stainless. Alright, now we should be able to remove that. And as I tell everybody, especially if you can't find a schematic, take pictures along the way. Notice that this hook goes down. Probably pretty sure that you would be able to take that and put that on incorrectly. That goes into my parts tray. And overall, I'm kind of impressed by this reel. I think that it's got a nice design. It's unfortunate that it's come into some issues here. Oops. There we go. If you keep enough tools on your bench, eventually you'll find the right one. You can just use a deep socket here. It's a 10mm socket. And this one says it was made in Japan, so that continues along that theme of 60s, 70s. And this one has a reverse thread on it. And it says it's a ball bearing reel. So let's go ahead and take these 2 screws that were holding that block on and get them into the axle shaft here so we know where to find them when we go to reinstall. And again, I have no idea who made SpinMaster. I do know it's a Japanese reel from probably the 70s. Seems like one that was kind of popular. We can remove this. There's a little washer, note that. And this one's not, well, it's set there. Let's see how it fires. Fires nicely. My hand was in the way. But but you can see it firing. Nice trip. I'm going to use some penetrating oil on this. It's been a while, of course. So let's just let that sit there and loosen that up. We have a typical ball bearing setup here. One of them has a clip for the ramp for the trip lever. So let's go ahead and take that apart. And again, sometimes these are tuition reels. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find the screw to hold down that crosswind attachment there, but we're going to try, and that'll probably be off camera. So after I'm done just taking this apart to show you all the pieces and parts and how to service this reel, we'll come back and we'll, if I can find it or not, I'll give you a post update. Big old bearing in here. You should be able to pull the whole thing up. So this one is a little stuck. So what I always suggest is if you can take that trim ring off that's holding the bearing on, I'm going to go put some penetrating oil in this and put the rotor back on. Put that screw back, or that nut back on, and then we're going to use that rotor to see if we can't pull the assembly out. That'll give you more leverage. Just like that. So note to everybody who's having trouble with these stuck bearings, that's a way to do it that gets you the leverage. Take that back off. Here's the bearing, and the bearing surprisingly is working. So just a little bit of WD-40, we're going to let that sit on there. Penetrating oil, clean the inside case. Clean the case here and there. And again, this is a nice clean reel internally, but we've seen twice now where the issue is, and that's in the missing piece for the crosswind gear. This is a nice solid piece. This appears to be brass. It's clean. If you needed to clean it, go grab a pick. There's a little bit of dry grease in the channel here, so I'm using a pick. You can use the blade of a screwdriver. You can use a toothpick. Mine is a metal pick. Use a dental pick. Somebody was asking me the other day what kind of tools they can have to get in tight spots. And they do make a series of dental picks. You can pick them up most hardware stores, dollar stores even. And they just do a wonderful job of getting that tight spots to get the grease out and the like. We're going to use Penn precision reel grease here. I don't care what reel grease you use for these, but please make sure it's a fishing reel grease. We're going to give this some lubrication that this reel hasn't seen in a long time. Put a little bit on the shaft where that bearing is going to spin. We can go ahead and take that bearing. Now that's been sitting there with some WD-40 on it. We want to make sure that we get the outside of that clean. That's probably why it's stuck there. And then go ahead and put oil on that bearing. Flood it. I'm going to use Reel X as the fishing reel oil for here. We can go reinstall in the case because it was tight coming out. Okay, next step then is to install the collar. Your collar is going to go underneath here. When you go to load, it's going to load like this. So you have the underneath that remains flush, and you want to just kind of flip it over, center it onto your hole. There's a pin for centering here. and grab one of those screws. And generally it works better if you grab a screw that's not involved with that mechanism at the moment, just to tie this down before you get to the other piece. And this is where taking pictures helps. If you've lost the orientation on this trip lever, then this certainly helps you to reestablish it. Just go back to your pictures and find how that came off. I'm going to put the two in that will center this for the last one. And now you can just work that pin just to get it all set up there. Alrighty, so that's setting this up. And we can go ahead and put that rotor back on. Before I go too far, I'm just going to spin it, make sure that it's working nicely, and boy, it sure is. I hope I can find a screw that's going to do that. Next up then, I went to my parts tray and I got the washer. Remember, this nut is a reverse threaded nut. So it goes on counterclockwise. Tighten that up, give it a spin. And trying to get my hopes up and not get too excited, because I certainly hope that we can make this work by finding a screw to tie this together. Okay, make sure that the shaft is clean on the axle shaft. Put a little bit of grease on there. Let's go slide that through. Remember, we had the tag side down on this one. It was down and over. So it's going to go on this way. So use this side for that. And then come over to the other side and make sure that you line the screw holes in, which is what I've done. You can use that pick again if you like as a centering tool. I'll go ahead and put both of these back on. Put the little washer on the top of it. And we should be able to get that to grab. There we go. Pull the pin out, get the other one started. Again, these are magnetic, which is certainly a convenience for me. And the paint on this thing is nice. I'm not sure what happened with that screw, because if it had broken off, you would have found the piece in the case. So I don't know exactly what somebody was doing here, but I do know that the screw is missing. And sometimes you get lucky and sometimes you don't, and we're going to find out if we get lucky shortly. Alright, once we do that then, the side case can go on, because the only reason we had to take the side case off was for that access to the crosswind block tie down screws. And we noted that the three screws are equal in size. Well, I know one thing: if I find one of these that's working, it's worth the investment. I can't imagine that there are too many of them around. I'd like to know more about them, who made them, where they were sold, and so on. I don't know that at the moment. But one of the things I did notice is it's got some nice quality and some nice features behind it. So I wouldn't be shy to buy one of these if I saw one. But I think what I know is I would have to make certain that this reel came with all the pieces and parts, because I don't believe you can get them. Okay, so I'm going to put this down right now. I'm going to see if I can find a screw, and I'll shut the video off and we'll come back. If I can't find the screw, I'll just continue to show you how this works for the rest of it. And if I can find the screw, then we'll continue and show you how to set that crosswind bar in there as well. So this story may yet have a happy ending. I was able to find a donor reel. I found what I would consider a pretty rare find. It was a Pro Series, or a SpinMaster Series reel. It was the Pro Series II. I'm working on Pro Series III. It had a broken bail. It was chipped out and the spring was broken, but I was able to find that the main gear in it had that screw I'm looking for. So it looks like it's a little beat up, but it looks like it's going to work. So now I want to take that little piece that I had almost discarded, the crosswind arm. And this had two things that were particularly of value to me. The first was it had the screw, and the second is it has the C-clip that goes over the other side. So let's see if we can mount this. Interestingly enough, this screw is a reverse screw, like a lot of the stuff that we see. So I'm just going to hope that we can get this on. And that may be why this is in the condition it's in, because somebody may have just figured that it was a traditional tight screw and tried to take it off by tightening it, and maybe that's what happened down the road. So this has got a shoulder on it, like the Mitchell bails and the like, so we got to get that shoulder to seat properly. And it's got it greased, so it's kind of a game I'm playing here at the moment. And it seems to be going in, not easily, but it is going in. I think we're almost there with that. Probably one more turn. There we go. All right, so now we want to set this up for the C-clamp. It's going to go on here, C-clip. And that, to me, looked like it was the right one for the post coming off of the other one. So I just need to kind of work that around. Let's just pull that in. There we go, that's set. Now we can mount the side plate. Before we do that, let's just get a little bit more grease onto the shaft. Drop of oil onto the anti-reverse override. Let's go ahead and make sure that's off, and then let's go set this on. And we're moments away from seeing whether that donor reel provided us with the parts we needed. It wasn't the same reel. It was a Pro Series II versus a Pro Series III, but it looks like the mounting hardware with the screw and the C-clip are the right dimensions. And I had the original trailing arm or crosswind arm, so it's a good chance that they will work. We'll find out. It's kind of like using junkyard parts here, but if it works, then I'll be a happy guy, because I like the kind of the lay of this reel. I like the design. And let's put the last screw in, put the handle on, and see what we got. Handle's tight. Let's see. Oh yeah, look at that. Wow. So there we go. We got lucky. So this is a SpinMaster Pro Series III, made in Japan, 1970s. That's a solid reel. I like that. Okay, so there you go. Sometimes you need two to make one. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope there was some lessons learned out of this one. If nothing else, we got to see what a ProMaster or a SpinMaster Pro Series is. Made in Japan, circa mid-1970s. Nice smooth reel. Got the override working. And the reverse working. There you go. Alrighty, so I hope you've enjoyed that. If you did, please like it. If you have questions about this reel or any reel in general, leave your questions in the comments. I try to respond to all. And if you'd like to see more, please subscribe, because that's what keeps my channel going and vibrant. And finally, if you have a reel that needs to be repaired or serviced and you're not up for doing it yourself, then contact me by the email on the business card, and I'll try to help you. So this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.